Bonjour, ici la chambre 360. Merci beaucoup Vassili de m'interviewer. Je suis Pierre-Alain Coffinier, le consul général de France à Ekaterinburg.
360. Комната 360.
Wow, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Coffinier. We have today a special podcast. This is our second podcast with the career diplomat. Greetings on our show. This is a big pleasure for us. We just are only starting, and we're happy to every new face. And this face right now is special. Room 360 is now in the General Consulate of the Consul General of France. And I'm here today speaking with Pierre-Alain Coffinier, who's a General Consul. It's a big pleasure for me. Thank you for this occasion. The first question I would love to understand is your life and your career. Like, what led you into this cabinet? What has happened in your life that you've made this decision of becoming a career diplomat? You can start from anywhere, any earlier point. You can pick any early point, and start from whatever you want.
Okay, thank you very much, Vassili. This is a very interesting question. Actually, I've always been interested in foreign countries and cultures. When I was 15, I wanted to learn Chinese, but it happens that I was good both at literary topics as well as math and science. My father, being a scientist, he led me to a baccalaureate in math and physics. After that, I was pushed into doing a prépa, une préparation aux grandes écoles, preparation for higher school. So I succeeded. It was in Paris. I succeeded after 2 years. I was admitted in ESSEC, l'École supérieure des sciences économiques et commerciales, higher school for
economic studies,
economic science and trade. That is business administration, actually. And so I stayed there 3 years, but it was not really what I really wanted to do in the long run. When you're a student, you have to make a choice for the coming 40 years of your life. So I thought I would not like to stay in the private sector. After that, I managed to join as a trainee our embassy in Madrid in the cultural section. This was an opening experience. I greatly enjoyed it. I speak Spanish, by the way, and I discovered the 800 years of fascinating history of the relation. I mean, the fascinating history of the Arabs in Spain. This led me to start learning Arabic, and I really wanted also to join the diplomatic service at that stage. So I was somewhere around 23, probably 24, so it was a bit late, but still I wanted to change, and I decided to learn Arabic intensively as fast as I could to join the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, because they have a special section of people who are specialized in Oriental studies. So I got a scholarship from the government of Kuwait. I stayed at Kuwait University for 1 year to study Arabic intensively, which is not too much because it's a very difficult language. And after that, I finally managed to join the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which was my aim and my long-time dream.
I'm sorry, what year was that when you joined?
I joined in 1986, so you see that's quite some time ago.
Was it Mitterrand time? Yes.
It was Mitterrand, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And as you've mentioned, the Arabic section in the MFA of France is a very important one, because you have relations with the Algeria.
Absolutely.
With Algeria and with
Morocco and Tunisia.
Tunisia.
Lebanon, even Egypt, Syria.
And you've planned to work there, right? It was your kind of dream right there.
Yes, absolutely. So I was sent in a row to several countries in the Middle East, to Yemen, which I found very interesting, to Jordan and to Israel. Israel also is a very interesting country, and it's important for an Arabist to see the other side of the coin. You see, to understand both the Jewish point of view and the Arab point of view. By the way, the Israelis are good at everything, at literature, cinema, architecture. And
have you tried?
So it's just a little like the Russians, pretty much like the Russians, by the way.
Oh, there was. It's just because there were a lot of Jews who were fleeing Russian Empire.
Well, I think that the Jews have also other interesting resources besides the Russian Jews.
Yeah. 5,000 years of history. And yes, and after you finished kind of your trip, tour around the Arabic
Middle East, I had to go back to Paris, and I got married. My wife, being younger than me, and she hadn't finished her studies, and she wanted to stay in Paris. So I stayed sometimes in Paris, and I had to make other choices that could make me stay in Europe and Paris. So I did several experiences, and what I enjoyed most was being sous-directeur, under-director, for Northern and Western Europe. So I had a group of 6 diplomats working for me, and we were in charge of preparing all the discussions between the French authorities and their colleagues from 15 countries, from the United Kingdom and Ireland to the Benelux, Scandinavian country, including Iceland, Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania.
And Estonia.
And Estonia, yes, okay, and also Switzerland, which is a very interesting country. We have very close relations with Switzerland, and it's always very complicated because they're out of the European Union. So I enjoyed that. After that, I was sent to one of the countries I was in charge of. I was Consul General in Scotland at a very interesting time because they had just voted for a nationalist
government, right?
Minister, first minister in Edinburgh, and so I had to follow all this campaign for independence which they waged, and this was very, very interesting. I'm still very interested in British politics, by the way. After that, I stayed there 5 years. I worked 2 years on Brexit. After that, back to Paris, and before I was sent here to fascinating Russia.
Oh, how was Russia for you? How do you perceive your consular region? Because probably you've found out that it's huge. It's like half of Europe, with your consular region, from Ijevsk, somewhere right from Udmurtia to Omsk.
Yes,
and
absolutely. So
Orsk.
This is several times France, by the way, but I mean, it's not that populated. I could say that there are 2 main regions in this immense federal okrug of Sverdlovsk, of Ural, I mean. In the north, we, the French, have a huge interest in the Yamal-Nenets autonomous region because we have Total over there with their huge projects of liquefied natural gas. But I have to say modestly that Total, being a very powerful company, I need not go there. They don't need my help. I rather need their help
All right.
than the opposite. But in the south, it's very interesting also because Ekaterinburg is in the middle of an very important industrial region with many industrial towns around it, Tyumen, Chelyabinsk, Kurgan, and the Nizhny Tagil and the Magnitogorsk and that. And really, there is a lot of things to do because, I mean, the French are not very well. They don't the links really need to be improved. So my main mission here is that, because we have good cultural relations with this region of Russia. Many young people, many people do understand or learn French. As yourself, Vasile, you speak an excellent French, by the way. The relations are also very good with Ural Philharmonie, which has strong relations with several orchestras and regions and festivals in France. They do very well. So I mean, on culture it works okay. I mean, even the Yeltsin Center has a program, a week of French, French film, which obviously you know. So this works well. We have a good influence, but our companies need to come here more, and this is why I'm working as much as I can with the French Industrial and Trade Chamber of Commerce in Moscow. Try to attract them here, to make them come here with French businessmen or Russian businessmen representing French companies, and I hope I'll have some results as soon as I can.
So the major problem here we'll just finalize all that you have said on the interests of the economic interests as well. We can all understand the cultural ties between Russia and France, and that it's so widespread with the Institut Français, with different centers of cultural attention like theater, movies, whatever. But the economic interest is also a very it's a point of emphasis as well, and sometimes it seems that European companies they kind of struggle with finding interest in here, and basically because of the purchasability of Russian companies and Russian people. Do you find also a big struggle for presenting the Ural region for French companies, the opportunities here, and do they find also a hard point? One of the hardest points is the purchasability. Does the purchasability scare them actually?
Well, you know, this is because it's not that straightforward, it's not that easy. This is the reason why we have a very strong trade and industry and finance service at our embassy in Moscow, and we also have this Chamber of Commerce, the Franco-Russian Chamber of Commerce. It's full of specialists who know the Russia very well. So their job is there to explain what Russia is like, what to do business with Russia looks like, and when they come here, I take all the contacts and we go around. For instance, we went with a group of businessmen to Chelyabinsk at the end of March. We visited several plants, manufacturers there. Very very interesting. We had a meeting with governor or vice governor rather, and I hope that they did make some good contacts over there. This summer we're going to have, for the first time since Inoprom was inaugurated 10 years ago, we'll have a French pavilion at Inoprom.
Oh, great! Yeah,
with around a dozen of French companies there. So I went to the Uralsky Chamber of Commerce yesterday to present the French companies who would be present there, and so that I hope as many Russian companies can visit them, can have contacts with them. So they'll give me a list of Russian companies who will be interested in meeting them. So I hope as many contacts as possible will be done over there. Our ambassador in Russia will come most probably for this event. We're organizing that also. We're organizing an event also, I hope, on Tuesday the 9th of July. I know that your president, Vladimir Putin, will be there.
Yes, for GEMIS. Yeah.
For GEMIS, but I mean GEMIS and
Innerprom as well.
Go together, and they will be held very close to Kosovo Airport also, so that would be an opportunity. I know that probably your Minister of Industry will be there also.
Yes, Manturov.
Manturov.
Denis Manturov.
Manturov. So this could be a good opportunity for us to be more present, because, as I said, it will be the first time that France will have a dedicated pavilion. So far, we had only very few companies who are coming.
Oh, that's great news.
This time we'll have a French pavilion, yes.
That's great news. When you're going to have all the high officials of France who are residing in here, like Madame Berman,
yes,
right, and you as well.
Well, I don't know about that, right?
GEMIS is going to be a big event, and also in the prom. It's great that you can grasp those kind of opportunities in your season at the moment, because previously I haven't kind of noticed that France can actually host a pavilion at the Innerprom. It's been always like Asian countries, Asian Pacific countries, like Korea last year or India. It's great. It's great to hear that. And maybe the last point, what are the most prominent companies who are so much interested, like maybe those 10 or some like top 3 French companies, excluding, of course, Leroy Merlin or Auchan?
Yes. Okay. We already have Leroy Merlin and Auchan. So we will have Sanofi. Sanofi is a company specialized in pharmaceuticals. They were at Chelyabinsk with me 2 months ago, and they are going to cooperate with a hospital over there. I know you have a strong pharmaceutical industry here in the Urals, and you're interested anyway. There will be Air Liquide. Air Liquide is specialized in technologies for gas, different kind of gas, and this is important for everything metallurgical, because it improves the efficiency of melting, of fusion. You see, when you need to melt a metal to reach the very, very high temperatures, well, Air Liquide comes in and improves the combustion, the fusion of all that. So they have good prospects also. Atos also is informatic, that is
IT company, right?
IT company which has special solutions for IT also. They hope to.
Well, nice. I wish you great luck in finding the place for them in here. Let's get a little bit back to finding out for our listeners one thing which I've also asked to a public affairs officer of the Consul General of the United States, and I will ask, of course, you. There's a different situation in the U.S. how you can join the diplomatic corpus, and it's a very peculiar one, and they're stressing on the diversity of their office and of their State Department. Is there some kind of a trend like that in France? How can in France is it the situation the same when you can just pass a test, a long one, of course, a very specialized, but then just to become after that, if you're passing those kind of exams and tests, can you join the diplomatic corpus, or you only have to go through the graduate degree or PhD degree and receive some kind of a degree? Okay,
so France is famous for having concours, closed number exams.
Yes.
And the main way to join the diplomatic corps in France is ENA, École Nationale d'Administration, the public administration school, which is very well known, but it has some drawbacks, because it was created to create equality at first in
Yes.
1945 when it was established, but it got to be to recruit its students in a smaller and smaller part of French society. Mainly, in this school you have a lot of sons and daughters of higher ranking Parisian civil servant or professor, and the result is that you make quite a narrow elite, and they're all among themselves. And out of our ministers today, I would not be so surprised if I don't know, I didn't count, but probably more than half are énarques coming from this school. This is why our president thought that a reform needed to be done. And lately he announced that ENA would be abolished, and we would go back to other, which remain to be specified, other ways of recruiting higher civil servants. Another way is what I did, is a special exam for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs with specialists of different areas. I speak Arabic, and I'm a specialist of Middle East and North Africa, but there are people also who are specialized on Asia, Japan, China, or also Russia, by the way, and the former USSR.
In Occidental studies as well, probably.
Yes.
Yeah. So you can also enter from being specialized in different areas, like very very specialized professional. Yeah,
absolutely. But it doesn't mean after that you're stuck in your career in these areas.
Oh wow!
You can also skip to other things. For instance, I did some things in defense. I stayed 2 years at the Ministry of Defense. I did a lot also for the European Union, where I was the director for 3 years, and then 5 years in the United Kingdom, 2 years working on Brexit. So it does not mean you're imprisoned and you have to stay in your specialization.
It's
even though
very good.
It could help.
Yeah, it's very good. Because in Russia, if we can kind of compare those kind of systems of entry, those filters of entry, we have kind of like the same situation. There's a very small percentage of people who have not received a degree at the MGIMO University. You've probably heard about it.
Absolutely, yes.
Moscow State Institute of International Affairs. It's a very, very kind of closed society where you can. After receiving a certificate or a degree there, you can join diplomatic service. This question will be a bit historical. It's about diplomacy, but about the job, about the things we'll be talking a bit later, which will take us into the future. But now I'd like to understand the past, firstly. The fundamentals of diplomacy. Can we call the France a place where it all began?
I thank you very much, but why not, by the way? Traditionally, foreign affairs were taken by the kings themselves for a long time, actually. But France had a special place because we were one of the we were the major European power to reach statehood. We had kings, and we constituted France with UKP, and after that our kings decided to have specialized minister for foreign affairs actually very early. In 1547, the king had specialized secretaries. He had actually 4 specialized in writing peace treaties. Several years later, in 1589, these secretaries of state specialized on foreign affairs, of the relations with our neighbors, came under one man only, one Minister of Foreign Affairs, and we had a Minister of Foreign Affairs, of course, from then on until now. Then on, that means from 1589 until today. So, as I said, we were constituted a kingdom before, obviously, Germany, which was split in different princesdoms, like Italy. Spain was also a major country. England was much smaller. We was not united with Scotland at the time. It was much smaller. In the north also we had the Low Countries. It was different also. So we were a major power, and we needed that.
How do you also evaluate the approach of Cardinal Richelieu, who's also one of the constituents of nowadays diplomacy? Oh, you haven't prepared, right? About it.
Yes, absolutely. Cardinal de Richelieu was extremely cunning, was extremely witty, and actually played the role of the king during during our
Louis II, right, or the third?
Yes, Cardinal de Richelieu. Yes, during the what was it?
It's a 30-year war.
La guerre de 30 ans, that's right. Et the interreign between two kings.
Louis II. We will cut it.
La Régence.
Regent.
During la Régence.
Well, you can just say. You can just say he was regent.
What?
He was just regent between two kings. That's it.
Yes. So he was a regent between two kings. Actually, he did rule France, and he was very cunning. But I mean, my personal idols, I would say, the two greatest men in our diplomacy, I would name Talleyrand. Charles-Henri de Talleyrand-Périgord, because he was quite an extraordinary man. He was already the Minister of Foreign Affairs under Louis XVI, and then during all the years of the Revolution, he managed to get through. He was a prince. He was a nobleman, obviously, belonged to the aristocracy and quite wealthy. Wealthy also because he probably didn't inherit so much, but he was very interested in money and managed to his own wealth quite well, taking advantage of all the situation. But mostly he was very witty, he gave very good advice to all the different people who ruled France in these troubled times. So he was there during Directoire, when Bonaparte arrived as Premier Consul, when Bonaparte was Emperor. He was also there. After that, he was still there with Louis XVIII and Charles X after. So he was extraordinary in his survival skills. But what he did is interesting because he sometimes betrayed the king. You see, for instance, he betrayed Napoleon in a famous interview in Erfurt in Germany with the Tsar of Russia. Precisely. Instead of defending Napoleon all the way, he had a private meeting and dialogue with the Tsar, telling him that he should not listen to Napoleon Bonaparte, and probably because Napoleon would not stay on for that much longer. So, and this is the reason why. What was it? Alexander the First. Alexander the First did not do what Napoleon wanted him to do, and did not agree with him because of the special advice of Talleyrand. So he did betray him. But what he did not betray is his idea of France, because he always promoted the real interests of France before everything. And when he thought that Napoleon made a mistake, well, he took his own view on that, and this is what led to his advice to Tsar Alexander I. And this is the reason why also at the Vienna Congress later on, he was admitted there. By the way, at the Vienna Congress, France, even French, was, even though it was the language of the vanquished country, of those who had lost, was the only language used at the Vienna Conference by all the powers and the kings who was there. And he defended our interests so well that we kept our borders almost as they were before the wars, the Napoleonic Wars, which is a great achievement. I also have a great admiration for General de Gaulle, if you want me to say a few words about General de Gaulle.
Please, yes. Yeah. Because recently we had celebrations concerning Victory Day. Of course, it also connected to the WW2.
Absolutely. So thank you very much, Vasily. First, I would say that we in France had been invaded by the Nazi. We suffered very much. We lost at first.
Yes.
And we were rescued by the Allies. And among the Allies, Russia and the USSR played an extraordinary role in crushing the Nazis. The Nazis were very, very powerful, but I mean, you paid an incredible tribute to that. I mean, 26 million of victims, or 27, something like that, is incredible. And we will never be thankful enough for the Russian and the USSR and you, Russia, for all what you did to restore peace and to crush the Nazi regime. Without you, we wouldn't be what we are, probably. But also without General de Gaulle, because General de Gaulle was the one who organized the resistance, the one who fled to the United Kingdom, who made this great call to the French to resist and not to be submitted to the Nazi regime, and for the restoration of France came through him from the United Kingdom and the other allies, the three major allies. So after that, also General de Gaulle was quite admirable, because, as you know, in Yalta, Stalin summoned a great conference of all the allies. We should maybe, one could argue that France didn't have a natural place over there, and the natural place was yours, obviously, the United States and the United Kingdom also. But even though we were not at Yalta, after fighting to be among the winners, and by the way, the resistance movement of France was deserved to be among the winners, because we did sacrifice a lot of people. We did fight. I mean, people from my family, we were in the resistance. We were with the Allies in Italy and everywhere, and from both sides of my family. So we also did fight for it, and thanks to General de Gaulle, we were considered as
winners,
as the vainqueurs, the victors, the victors, and therefore France, rightly so, because we were a great power still at the time. We had an empire, rightly so. We are now one of the permanent members of the Security Council of the United Nations.
Also, thankfully to de Gaulle, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. The next question I would love to hear your answer about is. Of course, the diplomacy, your job, and the thing is that you come here, you make a great look of your country, and what are the key points that you should follow, except of course the diplomatic protocol? What are your working parameters that you always keep in your pocket?
Okay, thank you very much, Vasily. So to make a good look of my country, first is to represent it well, to represent the point of views of my country around major international issues, of course, to represent French culture and bolster all the events around France that I can do, to show also that we have I'd say enterprise solutions to many of the questions that your companies have also. And in general, by and large, to make a good look of my country is is to improve what we call soft power. As you know, soft power is the ability of a country to influence the actions of others without force or coercion, as it was described by theorists. And in this soft power, you have a variety of parameters, like classic diplomacy, of course, but also political values of my country, of France, culture, and all sorts of indexes which can measure that. So in international rankings on soft power, France actually enjoys quite a high ranking on many parameters. I mean, it was ranked number 2 or number 1 2 years ago, number 2 last year. It varies according to what happens. Actually, for instance, the election of Emmanuel Macron did improve our soft power in the world, because he's a young, energetic man, globally minded. He likes Europe. He speaks English, and he was he was perceived because as the one who could reform France, reform our labor market, our economy, which he started to do, really. So what else? Yes, I must say also that to make a good look of my country, I have to stress the victories. I mean, the successes of our diplomacy, because our diplomacy is well known, is famous. We're a much smaller country than Russia by far, but still we're a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. Yeah. And we're quite active. For instance, lately, in the last decades, we had 2 major fields of successes, which are health diplomacy. As you know, we traditionally had Médecins Sans Frontières, Médecins du Monde, you know,
the
medics, doctors without borders, who work in all the conflict-afflicted areas and countries, and really do help a lot. And stemming from that, we organized UNITED, which is this international organization who raises funds to fight major epidemics like malaria, tuberculosis, AIDS, AIDS also. And we, the French, found an interesting way of financing it with other countries like Norway in the United Kingdom, actually, by raising a tax on air travel, all the air travel from passengers flying from France. Okay. And we managed to raise a lot of money, and it actually works very well.
Wow. So people really have to pay for, but they know what's the goal. Yeah, the noble goal. Yeah,
absolutely. And this organization UNITED was very instrumental in trying to lower the price of medicines to fight malaria, tuberculosis, and AIDS in Africa. The price went down quite steeply by half, or something like was cut by half or more. So it's much more accessible now to populations in developing countries.
It's just great to hear that. Well, let's go into the future right now. As we've gone from the present situation, we've gone which we've reached from the past. Let's go now to the future in front. What we have next 20 years, probably we will see how diplomacy will change as it is now becoming more digitalized, more interactive, more computerized. How a diplomat also changing his ways of working. What are the main key things that you've started to do from 10 years to now? What are the main differences? Because probably you've had a how's it? Well, not the telegraph, but the typer. Well, the woman who was sitting with you
as a secretary.
The secretary was a man.
La dactylo, yes.
Dactylo, yes.
Absolutely. Right. When I started, we had nothing digital at all. Of course, we had to dictate our telegrams to a secretary. We didn't know how to type. Actually, I did start typing long ago, but even before the digital world arrived. Actually, digital diplomacy is interesting. I mean, I would say that there are two ways of doing it. First, doing diplomacy through the digital instrument like Facebook, Vkontakte, Twitter, and such, and that is to be active on there.
Yes.
There. And the second is to try to have the major companies of the digital world, like Facebook and
Google.
Twitter. Google,
yeah.
Google and Apple and all these, to have them, how do you say, behave and to have some influence on them, because you see that sometimes, like take the Christchurch event, when was that, in March or April, this massacre in a mosque in New Zealand.
Yes.
We understand that through Facebook there was a video of the terrorist massacre, shooting at people in this mosque for something like 15 or 20 minutes, and which went viral, and everybody could see it around the world. And obviously, this is extremely nocif. I would say is extremely.
It's notorious. Yeah.
What?
Notorious. You know.
No, not notorious, but vicious. It's extremely bad, because it gives bad ideas to a lot of people, and young people especially. So this has to be fought. And this is why also we know that terrorists use the internet very well and very efficiently to recruit people to spread their messages of hatred around the world. So I mean, the first thing we had to fight when we had to fight ISIS, the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria. So the first thing is to fight their propaganda. So we had to fight the propaganda on all the internet and the web. So we have to have a diplomacy with the CEOs of these major companies, who, by the way, wage an incredible power on the minds in the world. So I mean, the Danes started having an ambassador in Silicon Valley several years ago, which means that they kind of promote these companies to the rank of quasi-states, And by the way, these companies have more weight in the world than many states.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, definitely. So I think this was an interesting thing. President Macron recently had a meeting with Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook, on the 10th of May, to prepare the appeal, l'appel de Christchurch, the appeal of Christchurch, which is something that, was saying that the Christchurch event, massacre, should obviously not be repeated, and to try to appeal to all the actors in the world, CEOs of digital companies, mainly terrorist group, NGOs, and everything, to do everything in their power to fight the propaganda and to fight terrorism together. He had several heads of states around him at the Élysée Palace for that. For instance, the Prime Minister of New Zealand was besides him also for this Appel de Christchurch. So this is a good example of digital diplomacy.
Well, thank you for that one. It's just it's a very important message, of course, and it's a sad thing that actually, frankly speaking, I haven't heard about it, and we kind of missed it with all the celebrations of Victory Day. Okay, let's say that. Yeah, and it's a very very sad thing. It's we all out here are with the New Zealand and with people out there who have suffered the horrific attack, and it's a very very strong appeal. It should be strong, should be enforced by also Russia, by the countries who have committed themselves to fight the terrorism in every aspect, in every sphere and area of our life. Not only in the field, but also in the internet. So we'll now conclude our great talk. Thank you for picking up time in your schedule, which is also very very loaded. We thank you again, and we're always open to have any kind of event with you, and we would love to have another podcast, maybe in a half a year, maybe in a year. If you will stay in the office, it will be great to have another occasion like that. And Room 360, we're going off the air.
Thank you very much, Vasily.
Yeah.